Well, this was unexpected. 2 weeks in a row, an unboxing. But there's a reason for this one. Stick around with me and let's dive into it. Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantyggoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see some of it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So yes, this was not an unboxing I had even any concept was going to be happening, especially not when I did an unboxing a week ago. But the lovely people at Grow Tropicals have sent me a little surprise, which I am so excited to dive into, basically. So yes, this was very, very unexpected. I'm obviously not going to say no. So you know the deal. With Grow Tropicals, I've been buying for probably about 5 years now. Like I think, yeah, it must have been around 2020 when I first kind of met one of the owners, Jacob, at a speaking event that we were both doing in Cambridge University at that point. So I've kind of been aware of and kind of have known the business since the very early days. I know it wasn't the very, very beginning, and they had another business before it was called something else, and then it eventually became into the Grow Tropicals that we know and love in the UK. So I've been around and I know the business for a while. Anybody who has checked out my recent Malvern video when I did a bit of a tour, I also had a bit of an interview with Jacob as well, so I'll link that at the top there. But yes, some very interesting plants, I think, may have arrived. And this is so sweet from Grow Tropicals. Just to be clear, obviously, because you know on my channel, I haven't got paid for this in any way or form, so this is not an advert. However, they have very graciously offered a discount code, which I will add at the top there, as well as in the description. And that is for everybody in my audience to use, I think, until October. It might be the end of October. Again, I'll put it somewhere at the top there. And it's for 10% off. Also, to be clear, I get no commission off the back of this. This is purely for you guys to use and get some cool new plants with a bit of a discount as well. So feel free to use the code. I'm sure if I'm going to be buying something soon, which I probably will, I'll be using that code as well. So yes, shall we dive into this? I'm very excited to see what has arrived. OMG! Super exciting. As per usual, you get the little tubes that you get with the Grow Tropicals when they come with a bit of an order. There's the big bubble wrap, and ooh, 5 plants. 5 plants. Also, apologies for appearance. I am still waiting for my hair to dry. So you are seeing full natural curls in order today. So you understand now why I usually have this pulled back, because it's a lot. And that's like half of my hair is already shaved off, so that should tell you something. So, shall we start with some small plants? Let's start with some small plants. Okay, first one. So stinking cute. And I've got a little list here as well, because I'm not entirely aware of what things are. Ooh, okay. I think I should be able to kind of figure out what each plant is. So I will shout it out. And I'll also put names, obviously, and prices at the top that they're currently selling on their website. So, whoa. Now this is beautiful. This will really make the Hoya heads happy, let's put it that way. So this is very cool, actually. The leaves, and unlike others that I've seen, I'm trying to be better with my unboxings and not chuck like bits of paper and cardboard all over the place and make clean up a bit easier. So I'm just going to take an extra second to just put it in the box, and then it's easier to dispose of afterwards. So see, this is what I love about them, because they'll always give me like labels. And when you've got enough plants and they've all got like fancy botanical names, you kind of need all the help you can get, especially a few like weeks or months down the line. So this is a Hoya. Let me bring it in so you can kind of see it. And hopefully that will focus on kind of the detail on that foliage. I'm trying to see if the light's not going to blow out the foliage. If it doesn't translate well, I'll see about getting some pictures and adding it at the top there. But this is a Hoya erythrina. Whoa. And I think it might be because it's a very green leaf and it's got some very pronounced veination, which is slightly on the kind of dark reddish purpley color. So I'm interested with this because erythro in like Greek is something that is reddish in color. So erythrina, I would imagine there's some redness that happened. Is whether or not these leaves are like really kind of prone towards sun stressing and they go a bit red, I don't know, or whether or not it's that veination that will kind of get a bit stronger, I don't know, but this is very cool. Oh, they're thick leaves, thick leaves. And yeah, the veination is pronounced, like you can actually kind of feel, it's kind of raised, if that makes sense. So the good thing with this is it's got 1 growth point, 2 growth points that I can see coming out of it. So very, very cool. Ooh, and there's potentially a 3rd one as well. There's one that was hiding in the back there. So 3 little growth points. You can never have enough Hoyas. At least that's what I say. And this is a nice and manageable size for me to place somewhere in my house without it stressing me out in terms of where am I going to put this. This easy. This is child's play. I can deal with it. So that's one. And I think I've got a little list here as well that they sent over. Yes, the other is also a Hoya. And this is a Hoya that I spoke about a while back on a video. It might have been the Weird and Unusual, most recent Weird and Unusual video that I did. I can't remember which video. I do so many videos in a year that I kind of tend to lose track of what I've said when, basically. But, and I know this is one that some of you had and were very clear with me. And this is one that's been around for a while. It's just that I've never owned it. So I am looking forward to growing this. Some people might have already figured out what it is, seeing as I said it's another Hoya. That might give you an indication. So let me put this away. I do like their corrugated packaging. It's like I've never had any plant come to me with any issue from Grow Tropicals, and I think that's generally what I hear from most people as well. So yes, I do tend to appreciate it. It's nice now in the summer months or when it's a bit warmer that we don't have to get, you don't have to in the winter, but they do offer the kind of heat pack so you can get, and actually I've ordered several times from these guys in the winter as well and I've never really had any problems. So yes, sorry, enough of me prattling on. The Hoya retusa. Look at the weird funky one. Where everybody, I was trying to figure out if this was just stems or if it was like different types of leaves, and I think some people were saying that no, it is kind of different leaves, but it's more leaf-like structure than stems, because you do get growing stems, and I can kind of see what you mean now. Very cool. Very, very cool. I'm really looking forward to growing this because this should stay nice and small and compact. Added bonus because where? The reality is the rest of them might not be quite so small as these, but it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. I will find space. Where? I don't know, but I will. But very, very cool plant. And it's really interesting to see this now because that foliage, and I'm pretty sure it is foliage, it looks unlike anything you will generally get on any other houseplant. I'll bring it in a bit closer so you can kind of see. And it's denser than you would from any other Hoya. The leaves are slightly turgid. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things that I'm just like, is it as thick and turgid in terms of leaves as other Hoyas tend to be? Or is it thinner Or am I just imagining it because the leaf shape is so unusual and so kind of almost needle-like? Almost needle-like. Very cool, very, very cool. It almost does this thing, and I was trying to see this in the pictures, and I wanted to see it in person, which I'm finally getting to, which is nice. So these kind of leaf-like structures, at the very end, instead of coming into a tip, they go into like a little bit of a, like the bumps that you get from like the arches that you get on the heart. So yeah, I thought that might be the case, and it kind of is. It's really, really cute. Amazing. So yes, I finally have the Hoya retusa. Anybody who's already got this and has got some nice tips on how to grow this happily, please do let me know in the comments down below. Massively appreciated. Thank you. Okay, so... oh! And this is another plant that I have mentioned in a recent video, actually. Really interesting. And I finally have it. It's going to be very cool. So this is an alocasia. And this is an alocasia I've never owned before. And hopefully there's still enough of the summer season that it can kind of grow happily for a bit before it throws a sulk over the winter. But that's just most alocasias. Actually, interestingly on the alocasias, again, I'll mention that video that I did about Malvern, and I've linked it earlier on in the video with Jacob, and he made a good point, which I think a lot of people haven't always made that connection of 1 + 1 = 2, because he kind of mentioned there's a lot of people, like, I think this was like common kind of issues that people come up with when they're growing certain types of house plants. And I think he was mentioning there's a lot of people that do a lot to be moisture retaining and all of these things specifically for alocasias, because we all know that alocasias, caladiums, colocasias, they appreciate a bit more kind of constant moisture around their roots. It might be because of where they're growing out in the wild, but he was saying, and it's interesting because I don't think a lot of people kind of made that connection, is a lot of people don't adjust for the winter months, and then they might get rot, or it might go dormant and it might go down to a quorm, and then they need to regrow it again the next season, because they're keeping the moisture levels at the same level that they were in the summer, which was needed, and kind of like the growing period and all these things, whilst in the winter there's very little activity that these plants do. They don't generally tend to actively grow by and large. So at best, you'll have a plant that's stuck in time over the winter months, but not getting any worse or any better, and that's a good place to be with a lot of alocasias and colocasias over the winter, and then you get it into active growth in the summer as well. And I've talked about this at length, that a lot of the bigger alocasias that I've had, they can grow a bit in the winter as well. Some of these smaller ones, and I think this would be classed as a smaller alocasia or a dual alocasia. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below. They tend to kind of stop a bit more. So you'd imagine if a plant isn't really doing very much up top, yes, it might be growing further roots down below. Maybe don't swamp it with water when it's not needing it quite as much as it would in the summer. So yeah. See, this is exceptionally cool. I've never seen one of these in person. Hold on. Whoops. Okay. Now let me kind of do this. People probably figured out already what this plant is just by quickly looking at it and me mentioning that it's an alocasia. But let me be true to my word and not create anywhere near as much of a mess as I usually do. Also, super handy to use these bits of cardboard, because I use them, I tend to try to recycle them myself, if that makes sense. I use these for a lot of people that have been asking about the allotment. I use these as kind of weed suppressants before, if I'm putting in new beds, and I am at the moment. So I use these on top of the regular soil in the allotment, and then put kind of compost or other soil on top of this, and it suppresses the weeds for a tiny bit. It will still kind of disintegrate enough that the roots of whatever I'm growing on top will still go through it, and eventually this will kind of all kind of go into the soil media as well. So very, very cool, very useful. So back to the plants, sorry. Little diversion there for the allotment. Alocasia Tiny Dancer. This is so stinking cute. This is so stinking cute. And I see what all those pictures go on about now. There's the petioles. This is pretty much a plant that is all petiole and very little leaf. But in that, it's very cute. In that, it is so, so cute and very, very, very dainty. I can kind of see why people lose their mind about this. And for an alocasia, compact, I would imagine. I've not grown this before, obviously. But if you have and you've grown this for years, does this end up becoming a bit of a beast in terms of needing a lot more space than originally thought? Because I'd be curious. But very, very, very cool. And the leaves have got certain types of like cupping that's going on within them, basically. So you can kind of see the cupping there. It's almost a bit of a cupping situation, and I would imagine you do get that with some other leaves, is to kind of let some of the water kind of drip through into, because if you'd imagine those petioles, they're growing in a very specific way, and it's almost creating little pitchers where water can sit. So this is very interesting. I don't think the Alocasia Tiny Dancer, and the way that it's written as well, I would imagine this is a cultivar. I don't think this is a species. I'll correct myself if it is. But if it is a species, then I would imagine that's why it needs those kind of pitches, is to maybe hold onto the water a bit more. I'd be very curious. I'll be doing some research whilst I'm editing this video and kind of correcting myself somewhere on the video if it is a species. But I want to guess that this is probably a cultivar. So humans have intervened somewhere along the lines in order to make this plant very cool looking like this. So now that I've got this, the next obvious one, and it's something that I've wanted for a very long period of time, which is like this, but even smaller leaves at the top, which is the Alocasia flying squid, I think. That is very cool. Anybody in the UK that kind of, if you ever see this and you want to throw Memo a bone, if that's so to speak, if you ever see the flying squid come up, because it doesn't come up very often, for an okay price, ideally I want to pay less than 3 digits if I could, like mid double digits would be great. I don't know if I'm ever going to get it at that price, but if you do see that, can you just do me a solid and just maybe send me a DM on Instagram and just let me know, because it'd be like, oh, I'd love to get one of those. But yes, the Alocasia Tiny Dancer. Very, 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 very cool. Very, very cool. So that's one of the bigger plants. Let's have a look. Okay. There's another, I'm getting a decent like collection of like orchids at the moment, and this is very similar to the other orchid that I unboxed in the previous unboxing from Grow Tropicals. I do apologize, you're going to get 2 unboxing videos like consecutively, but I think it's kind of worth seeing some of these plants, and I also want you to get the discount if you can, because there's a lot of people that wait for this time of the year to do their shopping. So if you can get something with like a 10% off, why not, basically. Again, I will reiterate, I don't get anything if you use the code, so just use it. It's for your benefit, not mine. Right. Consistency. Right. Makes my life a bit easier. So this is another orchid, and this is another Bulbophyllum orchid, and this is taller. And anybody who's watched the other unboxing, which is ironic because I was editing that video this morning, you'll be getting that. So I'm filming this on a Thursday. You'll be getting that on the Sunday of this week. But very, 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 very cool. So this is a Bulbophyllum gibbosii, or Gibsoni. I keep doing the Gibsoni eye as in like 2 eyes, and I do the eye and I drag the sound, and I think there's a lot of people that are always correcting me. It's just like it just sounds like an eye. So Gibsoni. The same with the Adansoni instead of Adansoni eye, I think. it's interesting because some people say one thing, then you research it online, and other people just like, you can say it both ways. I think that's half the issue when it's kind of like a Latinized word, or it's kind of based on Latin as a language. I don't know whether or not we actually know how some of these things were pronounced, or whether or not we're making educated assumptions, basically. I'm not going to go into linguistics. There are better people out there from me, and I'm sure I'm going to get corrected in the comments. Apologies. But yes, Bulbophyllum gibbosum or gibbosii. Very, very cool upright leaves. There is at least 1 or 2 new Bulbophyllum little kind of growth points that are coming through there, which is great. The other Bulbophyllum is fantastic. It dropped that one bloom that it came with, which was looking like it was on its way out. But the other one, I can see it now. It looks beautiful. It looks so beautiful. And that one was interesting because I learned a lot from that. You kind of saw me maybe on that unboxing when I was kind of looking at the growing media, because I've always seen online grow Bulbophyllums in just bark, by and large. There's a couple of Bulbophyllums that need a bit more moisture, so by and large grow them in bark. That one I think is one that needs more kind of going on within it. So what I've seen the growers had that in is very loose, very kind of small bits of kind of chopped up damp sphagnum moss, quite a bit of perlite, and then smaller bits of orchid bark inside, and it's very, very fluffy. It's almost barely keeping it upright. It is so kind of whisper in the air, if that makes sense. I don't know how else to describe it. It's really, really not compacted at all. So I'm really curious with some of my other Bulbophyllums that haven't bloomed for me, whether or not they need to be in something that fluffy, and I've always put them in something that was either just bark or maybe more densely packed sphagnum moss. Anybody who's successfully grown Bulbophyllums and has got them to bloom on a regular basis, do let me know down below. But yes, Bulbophyllum gibbosii. If I can find a picture of what the blooms will look like on this plant as well, I will add them here. Very cool. You can always count on Bulbophyllum orchids to have very interesting blooms. A word of warning to a lot of people, not all of them, but a lot of Bulbophyllum tend to be pollinated in the same way that a lot of the death lilies are as well. So their pollinators are attracted to their blooms because some of them, not all of them, have got, should we say, less than pleasant smells? So you buy them more for the blooms and less for the smell. But as I said, most of the ones that you will find more readily available either won't have a smell, or the smell won't be anywhere near as offensive, basically. And I think you can get some Bulbophyllum as well that don't have particularly bad smells either, but a lot of them do have slightly bongy flowers. Stunning. No other bloom in terms of orchids will ever be as interesting as Bulbophyllum orchids. Do a quick Google search after this video and you'll see the vast variety of different, very unusual Bulbophyllum orchid blooms that are out there in the greater wild. But yes, very cool. So Bulbophyllum gibbosum or gibbosii. Very cool. And I think we've got the last one coming up now, which is very exciting. I think I was looking at this because I'd never seen or even heard of this plant before. And I remember when I was looking at this on their website, I was sitting there going, ooh, this looks a bit like it could be an Alocasia or a Colocasia, but it's not. Or like it almost could be like a Caladium. And apparently I think it's related. I don't go into more detail than that it's just related. So I don't know if it's just related because they're all within the same family or the same genus, but oh, see, this is cool. This almost looks like it would be a pond plant, so I'm going to need to do some research on this, but very, very cool. Some people might just be like, well, it's okay. Oh, it's velvety. So, okay, hold on. Let me get this tape off. This is why I like grow tropicals as well, because obviously you can get some of the more usual kind of houseplants. So the tiny dancer you'll see a bit more these days, and you can get kind of those types of plants that grow tropicals, as well as things like the Bulbophyllums, and then something like this, which is Steudnera kerrii, or kerrii. But looky, I'll hide my face so you can kind of see that is really, really cool, and hopefully that's not being blown out too much. But I mean, it's a decent size. I'll put my head next to it. I mean, it's still going to grow. There's only the one leaf for now, but you can see what I mean by this looks like it would be related to the Alocasias and the Colocasias. My little umbrella. Sorry. I'm in a silly mood. It's almost the end of the week and it's been a long week. Oh, look at the roots. I missed the roots entirely. Hopefully that will come up on the camera, but wowee. So many roots, and it's actually, this will probably need a repot relatively quickly because it's already root bound within its little pot. But this is cool. It reminds me a lot of what you might find as a marginal plant around ponds. The leaf is very thin, I will say that. So this is kind of cool. This is very, very cool. And yeah, slightly velvety as well. Slightly velvety, so nice. This is a great selection that they sent as well because they're all different. They're all different. I think they might know me well by this point that I like the weird and kooky plants. So but yeah, this is what I mean. They bring in stuff like this where you wouldn't normally find this anywhere else, or it might even be plants that you've never even vaguely come across in your research and just go, what is that? And that to me, and we were having a conversation about this with Jacob, they're houseplant fanatics themselves. They have been. They were into the hobby as much as the rest of us when they were first starting off. So they geek out as much as we would. And imagine if any of us had a plant shop, how much you would just sit there and going through catalogs with growers and just going, ooh, what's that? Ooh, ooh, shall we get that? Ooh. It's good, but it would also be very expensive for all of us. Jacob has managed to make it into business. Jacob and his business partner has been able to make it into business, but very, very, very cool. So yeah, looking forward to growing this and doing some further research onto how I'm going to grow this thing and where. But yes, I think that is everything that I wanted to say. Also, a quick little note. Yeah, I think this video will come out in a week's time, so it'll be 2 weeks after the fact, but apologies to anybody who was really looking forward to seeing my photosynthesis video. Do you know what? That video has been in the making for months. I've been thinking about it, I've been planning around it, what I wanted to say and how I was going to say it and what I was going to show, because I knew that it was an important topic. And YouTube had issues with the first upload, so it didn't take the video well enough, it was cutting audio off. So I then re-exported the video and re-uploaded it, and I did a quick scan and everything seemed okay, but even the second upload had issues in it that I managed to miss. So took that down as well and have uploaded it a third time. Pretty much obliterated all my metrics on YouTube by like taking each one of those videos down, because it's just like, this video has failed abysmally, and I'm just like, it probably hasn't if I combine how many people watched and enjoyed all 3 videos. So yeah, if you ever see situations of that from any of our content creators, it's a pain for us, and it's really disheartening when you spent all that time trying to do that and a glitch like that happens. So even if you just go into the video for a few minutes and do a quick like and just do a quick comment. I think one of the kind of true MVPs on that video just went, I'm putting a comment on here to help with the algorithm to show this to more people because it's a re-upload. You are all the real MVPs in this. Thank you so, so much. But yeah, so random side note from there. I will link the final video here for anybody who wants to see it without any of the issues. It is there and it's working fine now. So some good comments on there about maybe a deep dive into kind of the different components of fertilizer, or maybe even doing a deeper dive onto mycorrhizal fungi. Those are all on the list now, and I will be doing them soon. But yes, tell me what you thought about all of these plants. So the Alocasia Tiny Dancer, the Bulbophyllum, the Steudnera, because I'm never going to remember it, and the 2 little Hoyas. Very, very cool plants. I cannot tell you how excited I am to grow these. I'll add the code again for the 10% off if you want to use it, and I'll put the date up to whether or not it's the beginning or the end of October that you can use it, but feel free to utilize it. And yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon, and I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.